Property Tax Division is now called to order. Thank you, members and guests, for attending. We're going to juggle the agenda just a little bit because of some other demands of what's happening today. And so I'm going to first present the House File 22486, which is the Certificates of Rent Paid Automated System. And then we'll continue on with the agenda as it is. And Representative Vang will be taking over as chair now so that I can present those bills. But first, we're going to approve the minutes of March 13th, 2019. Can I have a motion on that?
Madam Chair, so move the minutes.
Thank you. Approval of the motion, a motion to approve the minutes has been made. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. And I will get my things out of the way.
All right, the bill we have before us is House File 2286. Chair Loeffler, would you like to move your bill to get it before the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd move House File 2286 be brought before the committee for possible layover and inclusion in the division report.
All right, we have the bill before us, and I believe we have an author's amendment.
Yes.
Chair Loeffler offers the chair's amendment to House File 2286, labeled DE1. Does everyone have the amendment? Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted.
Thank you.
To the bill,
Thank
Chair
you,
Loeffler.
members. The certificates of rent paid are the starting point of the Renters Credit Refund Program, and current law requires every landlord throughout the state to fill out a form that indicates for each tenant how much rent they've paid over that year, and then calculate the percentage attributable to property tax, which by state law is 17%. And thank you. And then that is given to the tenant, who then fills out the application for a renter's credit refund. And we have heard over the years from the Department of Revenue that there's a lot of errors in this form. Apparently multiplying 17% times any number is still a challenge in our society. And so they have been thinking about and planning to automate the filling out of this form so that the math would be more accurate. And this proposal on House File 2286 takes that a step further and says we would collect the data on rent, adding on the number of bedrooms and utilities, and create a useful database for the state of Minnesota of what's really happening in real time in rents geographically and across the state of Minnesota. And we think this will be useful for a variety of reasons. One, it'll be useful for us in calculating future renter credit trends and projecting out what that would mean for the state budget. But it will also be useful in our new housing committee as they're dealing with affordable housing to have good, accurate, real-time information. And I serve, as you know, on Health and Human Services, and we are actually under federal court order to move more people into independent living in apartments. And as we're planning for that, we can use this information and more accurately estimating what the implications of that is for the Health and Human Services budget. Right now, in some Health and Human Services budgets, we actually have a flat amount of rent paid across the state, which sometimes makes it very difficult in the high rent districts of Minnesota to be able to find apartments for people with disabilities who truly are ready and able to live independently on their own with some minimal supports. And so I think that this, as long as we're going to collect the data or we're going to automate filling out the form, we might as well collect the data so that it can be useful for other purposes for the state. And with that, I would be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for the author? Representative McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the author, I see in reading some of the summary of it that a lot of the impetus is on the property owner to come up with and to report the number of bedrooms, utilities paid, zip codes, et cetera, counties. Is there a website of some sort that he's supposed to go into the Department of Revenue and record all this information? Or how is that system enacted?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative McDonald. Yes, the current system right now, we have a system right now where a landlord can go online and fill in a form electronically, but the data isn't captured or in any way. It's just a way to fill it out, type it, have it printed out, and then you hand it off to your tenant. The only new data items would be number of bedrooms, because if we're going to use this in assessing rent for other programs funded by the state, we do need to know what the cost of a one-bedroom is versus a three-bedroom in different parts of the state as we're doing housing planning. But that right now, this is otherwise all the information about geography, zip code, county, even property ID is already reported by the landlord on these forms individually.
Madam Chair?
Representative McDonald.
Thank you. So currently, Representative Loeffler, a landlord, I do have a friend that owns several apartment units, I think like 30-some thousand rooms or facilities there, rooms. That seems like an awful lot of work that one person would have to do to record for a renter's credit. Or is there any other state assistance or any kind of financial assistance that would accompany your bill to help this? Seems like a daunting task for owners of duplexes. And
Chair Loeffler.
Madam Chair and Representative McDonald, actually, this is information that would have to accumulate anyhow, and in order to do their own income taxes, they're going to have to report their total income, total rental receipts by building in order to calculate their income taxes based on whatever income they acquire from their rental property business. So this is something they'd have to do anyhow. The certificate of rent paid form itself, it would not change other than adding in number of bedrooms as a checkbox and the utilities. For large entities that I don't think we have too many that own 30,000 units, but for someone who does that, they probably have their own software that does that, and adding on a couple of data items, number of bedrooms. A lot of times they already have that in their database because that's part of their property management. They want to see where are my vacancies. Are my vacancies in the one bedrooms or in the two bedrooms or the three bedrooms as they're trying to make decisions about the next 100 units they buy.
then lastly,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, thank you, Representative Loeffler. And actually, I correct myself. It wasn't 30 units. It was 30,000. It was 16,000, I believe. And the Department of Revenue has the software that would establish this already. Is that correct?
Madam Chair?
Chair Loeffler.
And Representative McDonald, my understanding is that they have been planning to create an automated system. This would add a little bit more to that, and we're meeting with them to talk that through. To me, if you're going to develop an automated system, you might as well have all that useful information available so that as we're looking at how to create affordable housing policies, we can actually really identify geographically where the need is and where communities are really struggling.
Representative Rumback.
No, I'll pass.
All right. Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Chair Loeffler. Just a couple questions that I have in regards to this. This system, if I understand this right, and you can correct me in your answer if I'm wrong, but this is really having the department develop a system that will keep tabs and keep the data on not only the rental units, but the owners of the apartments and what they are charging for rents. So my question is there any concern about private data being available for people to see, even about the tenants? And the second question is, can this system be used for something else later down into the future, which might have some concerns, such as maybe trying to determine rent and rent distribution, et cetera? Those are kind of hefty questions, but when we start asking for departments to start collecting data on not only owners of the property, but also the individuals, which this actually would be, it makes some concern, at least pause, for data privacy. So if you might comment on that.
Chair Loeffler.
Madam Chair and Representative Petersburg, my vision is that it would actually just collect the basic economic information about the rents and the number of bedrooms. There's no need to retain the individual tenant's name and all that kind of detail. Although all of that is submitted right now to the Department of Revenue when those certificates of rent paid are submitted by the tenant. This would be considered tax information, and so it would be considered protected just like any other tax return, as I understand it. So that it wouldn't be any more information generally in terms of a concern about the individual tenant or others than was currently used. In terms of your second question about how this could be used, as we're increasingly being asked in the tax committee, in other committees, the housing committee, to step up, and we have more and more communities competing for limited dollars for affordable housing, both rental and home ownership. This will give some good data, I think, for cities and communities that are competing for those resources, and for the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency in evaluating the need within any particular community. So it may actually help communities in better understanding what's happening within their markets as well.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And for just one follow-up question in regard to data collection, there's a difference between collecting data and not capturing it, and this system would actually capture it. And whether or not we try to keep it anonymous or not, there are always ways in which for somehow it can get leaked out and so forth. So that was my concern, and so that's the question that I just kind of follow up with you, is that I just have great concern that we're creating another big brother kind of looking over the shoulder of individuals as well, and I just have some concerns with it. So thank you, Madam Chair.
And
Chair
Madam,
Loeffler.
and Madam Chair, my vision is actually you wouldn't even grab the individual data, because that would be a lot of data points that you don't need to get to the goal of actually understanding what's going on with housing trends and affordability.
Representative Hertas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Loeffler, I applaud the effort of having an automated system to make sure that accurate credits and return of renter's credit is actually paid. With regard to your addition of this data collection, I'm a little concerned about exactly what purpose it will be used for and how accurate that will be. There's a number of data sets that are available through the Association of Realtors and other rental agencies and marketers of rental real estate that really are more indicative of what the true rental cost is. I'm afraid that just gathering the number of bedrooms doesn't tell the whole story. You need to be cognizant of the size of the unit, the square footage of the bedrooms, the square footage of the entire unit, and to actually determine what is a competitive rate based on not just the unit itself, but the other amenities that might be associated with that rental property. Whether it has, a covered garage space or heated garage space or underneath, or however it's done. But all of this is all part of the rent. And to just collect simply how many rooms a unit has doesn't really give an accurate measure of what the real cost of that rental housing is. Because you could have a 3-bedroom unit that is a total of 900 square feet, or you might have a 3-bedroom unit that is 600 square feet. It doesn't really take you maybe in the direction you're looking for. And so with regard to the multi-facet of this bill, to have this additional requirement of collecting data for the other purpose that you mentioned, which is not related directly to renter's credit, I just think it's probably duplicative and not really providing an accurate measure of what something really costs per square foot.
Chair Loeffler.
Madam Chair and Representative Hertas, the purpose of this data is not to evaluate what is a fair market rent for any one particular building. That's the kind of data that you're talking about. This is to say, on a geographic area, in a county, in a zip code within a larger community, like in Hennepin County, what is the average rent for a 1-bedroom, for a 2-bedroom? how many 3-bedrooms are there in a community that says it would like to have state assistance in building more large units? And so this would be information that would be useful in broad planning. It would be useful in Health and Human Services if we know we have to move and are planning to move 1,000 people with disabilities into independent living in apartments. What kind of range of costs would we anticipate in general? Not on a specific building, not on a specific block. The proprietary and services that you mentioned that collect some of this information tend to focus only on the larger buildings. They don't pick up the plexes, or they're a subscriber only, and they only collect data from their subscribers. And so it hasn't, the census, does a sample, so that's another source, but it doesn't quite get to this level.
Members also want to add that we do have a full agenda, so Mr. Jensen has also reserved a room for later in the evening if we need to continue this into the night. So please be sure to be mindful of the time too as well. And do you have follow-up, Representative Hurtas?
Well, thank you for that explanation, Representative. And I do think that, collecting the data for the purposes of trying to determine in a county what an average 1-bedroom unit is could really send a wrong signal as to exactly what a fair price is because of the lack of the additional information. You could have a number of higher sized units collecting a larger rent that might skew the data to justify a much smaller rental property because it's comparable as a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom to overcharge or charge too much rent based on the other data set that's collected. So I'm just expressing to you that, with regard to how that information is collected and how it's intended to be used might not serve the full purpose of your goal.
I know there are members with questions, but we do have a testifier that I want to bring this to the table first. We have someone from the public that was just testifying on the bill, Mr. Reynolds. And please keep your comments brief, no more than 2 minutes. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and who you represent for the record, and then we'll have the members continue off with the questions.
Madam Chair, John Reynolds with the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and thank you to Chair Loeffler for taking some time to talk through her intent for the bill last Friday. The Multi-Housing Association just has a few concerns with the details of the bill. The first is we're concerned about adding data elements beyond what is required to issue the CRP. I certainly understand Representative Loeffler's intent, but over the last few years, MHA has been in discussions with the department about creating an electronic system to provide the department with an electronic copy of the CRP issued by the landlord, and that itself is somewhat complex. So automating the whole process plus adding 3 or 4 new data points or 3 new data points certainly adds the complexity, and we have managers of all sizes, property managers of all sizes, who rely on software systems, as Representative Loeffler alluded to, and it's varying degrees of complexity to get the state to interact with those systems. So I think starting smaller is okay from our perspective for the purpose of automation. The second, as Representative Hurtas alluded to, and Chair Loeffler and I discussed this on Friday, there are some private sources for this type of information, rental market analysis, CoStar, Marquart advisors. Those are subscription services, and they depending on which one, they're limited in their geographic coverage. But the Marquart advisors rental analysis, which is fairly detailed and relies on tens of thousands of units by type, is published in the Star Tribune. I'll be really quick, sorry. So they're out there, as well as HUD's analysis. And then lastly, it's somewhat rare to use the tax filing process to collect data that's unrelated to the tax filing itself. So we look forward to continuing discussions with Chair Loeffler, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Representative Jass?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Loeffler, has this gone to the Civil Law Committee because of the data collection in the bill?
Representative
Chair Loeffler?
Madam Chair and Representative Jaskowski, Representative Lesh has indicated he doesn't need to see this because it is covered under tax information that's in the current laws about protecting return data.
So, Madam Chair.
Representative Drakowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Representative Loeffler, we're doing brand-new data collection in the bill, and the chair of the Data Practices / Civil Law Committee doesn't want to see the bill. I find that amazing. With that, I really wonder, Madam Chair, doesn't the Census Bureau collect this data already?
Chair Loeffler.
Madam Chair and Representative Drazkowski, they do a limited sample. It doesn't necessarily get us the information down to the level that we would want for housing planning and other things. And it is periodic, and my understanding of this, since we're going to be automating these forms anyhow, it seemed like capturing a few data elements out of it for state planning and state utilization seemed like a cost-effective approach that would respond to our needs in responding to demands for assistance in affordable housing, support in arranging for housing budgets for people with disabilities and others that the state has an obligation for.
Representative Drakowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Chair Loeffler, I do understand that the Census Bureau creates a wealth of data, sometimes too much, that they take from people. And I certainly, as this bill proceeds, we'll be looking into that further to see what indeed they do collect. But I struggle, as the other members have spoken about the additional data collection. Government is going to get bigger, and its brother is going to get bigger too with this bill. I don't know, Representative Loeffler, whether renters or landlords need help filling out the CRP, if that's a stated goal of the bill. I have a couple of rental units, and it takes about 10 minutes to do the CRPs. It's one simple calculation that a calculator and a finger does, and I'm certain that the department checks it over. So if that is the stated goal and the reason is to somehow help landlords, that part isn't necessary. If it's somehow to be something beyond that, then that's a different deal.
Do you want me to just keep going?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Chair Loeffler.
I would just encourage you, Representative Drazkowski, to talk to the Department of Revenue. Apparently, calculating 17% of something is a math challenge for much of Minnesota.
Well, Madam
yes,
Chair, and Madam
Representative.
Chair, I think that needs to be brought then to the Education Committee.
Representative McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just a quick question for the author. See, I was just looking at the language of the bill in comparison to Zillow rentals. Very similar data that they have here on this website of number of units, address, city, county, how many homes or rooms, if utilities are paid, grocery stores, coffee shops, et cetera, near the places. Is this something that perhaps, that since the private industry is doing something similar, that perhaps the Department of Revenue, instead of creating a brand-new system, could look into and partner up, perhaps, or at least get some of the data?
Chair Loeffler.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative McDonald. Most of those commercial products, I don't know that one particularly, have very strong limitations. They only grab things off of particular for-rent sites. They would not know, I think, the majority of rents in the community that I represent.
Really?
All right.
It's mostly plexes owned by small owners who own one building down the block.
All right. We do have to get along. I'm sorry, Representative Rumbeck. I will have to excuse you. We can discuss this more on Wednesday too as well. We do have to move on to our next agenda. And is there anyone from the audience that wants to testify for or against this bill? All right. And with that, Chair Loeffler renews her motion that House File 2286 be laid over for possible inclusion as amended in the division report, and that the House File is laid over as amended.
Thank you.
Next, we have before us is House File 2349. Chair Loeffler, would you like to move your bill to get it before the committee?
Sure, I'd move House File 2349 for committee consideration for possible inclusion in the division report. And there is a DE amendment.
Would you like
staff
to
has
move
worked
your
on.
amendment?
I would like to move that.
All right, Chair Loeffler moves the DE1 amendment. Does everyone have the amendment? Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Chair Loeffler, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This bill and the next bill deal with our property tax refunds for homeowners and renters, both of which have not been addressed in a change in tax policy and increased investment since 2013. And in the meantime, as you can imagine, taxes and rents have gone up. In fact, rental properties had the largest increases in taxes in recent years. Since the time it was last adjusted, the total statewide property taxes on rental property have increased 28%. Just from 2017 to 2018, that 1 year, the average increase in property taxes on apartments went up 8.4%. And we're seeing those kind of increases across the state. And so that's no wonder why rents are increasing across the state as well. And because of the affordable housing crisis, less than young people can afford to buy a home, given the large down payment requirements and the barrier that provides. And also more and more seniors are renting as the baby boomers seek no maintenance housing and choices in living that have a one-floor layout. Just the other day, I was in line, and a couple of young people were ahead of me, and they said, tonight we're going home and doing our taxes because we're hoping that this refund will be enough to get us to our down payment goal. And so this is something that renters count on as they're trying to make their way up into the economy. This bill before you would make two changes in the renter credit. It lowers the copayment percentage by 5% for all income ranges except the lowest, which is cut in half to 2.5%. It increases the income range eligible to those households earning $90,000 or less. The current limit is $62,900, and it seems low as that's essentially a couple that are both earning about $15 an hour, which is not considered a very livable wage for a household in the metro area with the kind of rents that we have. Currently, the Homestead credit range is up to $115,000. The revised schedule retains its progressivity with 75% of the refunds going to households under $50,000, so it continues to target those at the lowest income. And right now, the average statewide refund amount under current law is $688. That would rise for those currently receiving the refund to $729, an increase of $41. Newly eligible applicants would average a refund of $430, significantly less than those currently in the program. And the majority of the recipients significantly would be people of low income. And with that, I'd be glad to respond to questions. We just got the runs and the analysis on Friday afternoon, so I'm still absorbing all of the numbers, and I welcome your input and feedback as we go along. The price tag was a little higher than I might have expected, but I'm learning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Drakowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair Loeffler, does the bill then reduce the inflated 17% number that is above and beyond the amount represented by property taxes? Does that reduce it to the 14.9 or whatever that statewide number is? I think it's 14.9 if I remember correctly.
Chair Loeffler?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Drakowski. It does not address the 17% that is currently in state law. The study that was done, I believe, a couple of years ago by the Department of Revenue showed that that is a close to accurate number for Minneapolis at that time. It was higher than what might be accurate portrayal in some parts of rural Minnesota, but felt that since nobody's getting that full amount, like I say, there's a number of factors in creating this, it didn't seem like we needed to change that at this time.
So, Madam Chair?
Representative Drakowski?
So Representative Loeffler, we have policy in law now that is already subsidizing. If you accept the argument that this program is not a subsidy program, that it's paying back the money paid in property taxes, and if you accept the argument that renters are actually paying property taxes, which I don't, by the way, but if you do, then it should be the amount of property taxes, which is 14.9% in the state on an average across the different regions. And so your bill is going to augment the amount even more, maintaining already the additional overpayment that we're paying to these people already. We're paying on the average throughout the state 14% more than is represented in property taxes. 14% subsidy above that, if you accept that argument, 14% above that amount. And you bringing a bill to subsidize it even more. So we're definitely going off course or onto a new course from one that is trying to legitimize this program by saying that it focuses on restoring or paying back property taxes to one that is truly and fully a full-blown subsidy program. Is that right?
Chair Loeffler.
Madam Chair, this bill works within our existing framework and system, and if Representative Duskowski would like to propose an alternative way of calculating the percent of rent that constitutes property taxes, he should draft a bill to address that. It's not an easy thing to do, but it would disproportionately reduce refunds in greater Minnesota, and I think that would be a concern for some members. And so the bill before us works within the current structure and framework and tries to make a little bit of progress, $41 on average, not a gigantic leap forward when you look at the 28% increase in tax burden on rental property since we last adjusted this. $41 isn't a lot, but for people who live at these income levels, every dollar counts.
We do have several people from the public that wishes to testify. And we are asking the testifier to keep their comments brief, no more than 2 minutes. Ms. Egan and Mr. Dahl are first up. Welcome to committee. Please identify yourself and who you represent for the record.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Michael Dahl, and I'm the Public Policy Director with Homeline, a statewide tenant advocacy organization. With me is Sue Egan, a tenant in St. Anthony, Minnesota. We're here today to speak in favor of House File 2349 and appreciate its progressivity, as was noted by Representative Loeffler. Minnesota renters are suffering a lot right now with especially those with extremely low incomes. Renters use the renter's credit to cover basic necessities. The current rental market does not work for extremely low-income renters, and anything we can do to provide something regarding how this is not a working market for them would be greatly appreciated. Renter's credit is used for things like buying school supplies and winter clothing, things people can stock up on, like household items and toiletries, and expenses of things that have to be often waited to be addressed. I want to just share a couple of statistics about the housing market for the committee because I think it's pretty important to know some of these things. And I passed out a report that's from the Minnesota Housing Partnership, the State of the State's Housing 2019. First is that a large number of Minnesota renters face severe housing cost burdens. Of the 611,000 renter households, 22% experience severe housing cost burdens, meaning they pay more than 50% of their rent for their income for rent. Second, Minnesota has a severe housing shortage and affordable housing for our lowest income neighbors. For more than 179,000 renter households living with extremely low incomes, that is those living with under 30% of area median income, there are only 68,000 units available. I'd like to repeat that for you. Of the 179,000 renter households at extremely low incomes, there are only 68,000 rental units available. This is a severe shortage of available and affordable rental units. And then third, rents are increasing while renters' income is decreasing. In part, many renters experience housing cost burdens because their wages have decreased relative to housing costs. Between 2000 and 2017, the median income for renters has decreased by 5%, while the median in gross rent statewide has increased by 13%. As I said, Minnesota's rental market is not working for extremely low-income renters. We need to do something to address this, and we thank Representative Loeffler for this proposal and the committee for the chance to testify before you. And I'll now turn it over to Sue Egan.
I'm Sue Egan. I live in 2500 38th Avenue Northeast of St. Anthony, and I'd like to have them increase the rent credit because I don't have no dental, and I use my money to pay on my credit cards. That's the only way I can do it. Yeah, because I just can't get the insurance for my dental. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the testifiers? All right. We do have 2 more testifiers, Julia Sisson and Nan Madden from Minnesota Budget Project. Please identify yourself for the record, and please keep your comments brief. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Julia Sisson, and I'm the Financial Wellness Coordinator at Emerge Community Development. We serve predominantly the 2 communities in which we're located, Cedar Riverside neighborhood in Minneapolis and North Minneapolis. As the Financial Wellness Coordinator, I've overseen and managed our free Vita Tax Prep Clinic, as well as offer financial coaching and financial education to community members in our communities. Just to give a little background on my experience with the renter's credit, of the 89 renters or property tax returns that we filed last year, I know that a significant amount were renters rebates, and for those that we served, a significant amount of those renters rebates were for those who are on fixed social supplemental security incomes. To paint a picture of what that financial situation looks like, for an individual who's receiving supplemental security income as well as potentially Minnesota supplemental income, their monthly budget is $1,044. With data that I took from the Minnesota Deeds Cost of Living tool, the average cost of housing alone in the Hennepin County where I work is $860 per month for a single person. So $1,044 minus $860 per month is a remainder of $184 that they have left to spend on everything else that comes that you need to live with after housing. Needless to say, that is a very small number. For these Minnesotans, the yearly renter's rebate allows a small reprieve from this extreme financial stress and difficult quality of life within these circumstances.
I do need you to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you.
For one of the families in particular that we served, the renter's credit meant that they're able to get ahead on rent payments by 2 months. After doing this, their primary vehicle broke down, and the renter's rebate credit allowed them to fix those repairs so they could maintain stability within their housing and their employment. Thank you for your consideration. This renter's rebate increase would make a significant difference to many of the individuals that I serve.
Thank you. And next we have Miss Madam, please identify yourself for the committee. And I do apologize, I'll have to give you a minute for your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nan Madden. I'm director of the Minnesota Budget Project. I want to thank Representative Loeffler for bringing this bill forward. Like all Minnesotans, Minnesota renters want safe, affordable homes for themselves and their families. But as you've heard, Minnesotans earning low wages or on fixed incomes struggle to afford the cost of housing and other basic necessities. The renter's credit successfully reduces the regressivity of Minnesota's property taxes and puts a limit on how big a slice of families' budgets can go towards property taxes. This bill provides a larger renter's credit for currently eligible Minnesotans by increasing the co-payments. This would benefit renters all across the state at a time when there is a shortage of affordable housing and rents are rising faster than renters' incomes. We also appreciate that the other component of this bill that lifts the income ceiling maintains the sliding scale structure of the renter's credit and continues to provide the largest refunds for the most struggling Minnesotans. Overall, this bill responds to the economic challenges faced by Minnesota renters and how a lack of affordable housing creates barriers to economic growth in many communities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. We believe that expanding the renter's credit is a targeted approach that puts everyday Minnesotans first and would be a progressive component to add to the omnibus tax bill this session. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Are there any? Representative Rumbeck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know Ms. Madden talked about that the increasing progressivity is good to see, but really in light of the fact that rent is described as being very regressive, I mean, the fact that we are trying and stretching this program to households of $90,000, it seems very odd to me. I mean, if the problem is really with very low income and disabled people, why are we doing, raising the ceiling? That just doesn't make any sense. And the refund is $150. Now, any check is great, but it's pretty insignificant when you're looking at a $90,000 income. So it seems to me we're looking here to, just to have government's involvement in more and more of rental families and households. It's really not necessary if your goal is really to impact the lives of the very low income and the disabled and the elderly.
Chair Loeffler?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Representative Runbeck. Well, it does target it towards that group, but we have to look at if we're really trying to help families get stable and move on to their life. We have a lot of people who've just graduated from college are a couple with a couple of kids. You know how daycare in the metro area averages $15,000 per child. They're struggling with student loans. They're paying high rents. And even though $90,000 sounds like a lot to a lot of people, when you add up what's the outflow in that household, it's difficult. And part of our society's goals have always been to assist people to have the economic means to eventually get into home ownership. And we have heard that this is a means that helps people get that little bit of money that they can put into savings as they, over the years, try and build that down payment, because that's oftentimes, for many of these young couples, the biggest barrier to home ownership.
Madam Chair and Representative Loeffler, excuse me for saying, but I just think that that's incredible minutia of trying to imagine what people's needs and wishes and dreams and objectives are. That's their own personal objectives. And why? Why are we trying to think that it's our job as government to take all of that into account? I mean, it just goes beyond belief, really. Thank you.
All right. Is there any testifiers from the audience that wish to testify for or against this bill? All right. Any further discussions? Chair Loeffler, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I appreciate the committee's discussion and look forward to continuing the discussion as we move along.
All right. With that, Chair Loeffler renews her motion that House File 2349 be laid over for possible inclusion in the division report, and that House File is laid over as amended. Okay. Right. House File 2348. Okay. The next bill we have before us is House File 2348. Chair Loeffler, would you like to move your bill to get it before the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move House File 2348 come before the committee for possible inclusion in the division report, and I would also like to move the DE1 amendment.
All right, we have the bill and amendment before us. Any discussions? Does everyone have the amendment? Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. To the bill, Chair Loeffler.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. House File 2348 addresses a catch-up provision as well for the homestead credit. And as I mentioned, it has not been increased or adjusted since 2013. Since that time, property taxes for residential homesteads have gone up 20% and 16% for egg households. That's the house, garage, and 1 acre. This bill increases the maximum refund amount by $500. The largest refund for persons with $42,709 or less of household income would be $3,320. For households in the highest income range, the maximum refund is less than a third of that, $1,050. The average increase under this proposal would be an additional $330 per household. And the current progressivity is retained. 44% of the increase would go to seniors and those with disabilities. And with that, I'd be glad to answer questions.
Do we have any questions for the author? We do have a Representative Hurd.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Loeffler. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing these three bills forward. I think that we often talk about, when we're looking at bills and what we're asking to do, we often talk a lot about the interests of businesses and how hard it might be for them and how much it might cost them. And yet then when we turn our focus to the people who are sometimes most marginalized, who are renters, that then we talk about how we can't anticipate their hopes and dreams. And I really appreciate that you're trying. I was a renter once, and when you come from a community where you have little social or cultural capital, that you don't know where you can even go to share your hopes and dreams for people, and how that little bit of money actually is the difference between whether you are homeless or you are not, that I really appreciate these bills being brought forward, and I just didn't want this opportunity to pass without me saying that. Thank you.
Representative Tchaikovsky.
Madam Chair, my hopes and dreams would be to understand whether we're going to put the DE1 amendment on or not.
Oh, do we not move the, all right. Chair Loeffler, would you like to move the DE1 amendment?
Madam Chair, I believe we already did.
Already did.
We did, Madam Chair?
Yes, we did vote on it.
Oh my, I'm not thinking fast enough. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Must be daydreaming.
I'm hoping and dreaming.
All right. Representative Rombach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we finish this group of bills, do we have the total that these programs represent now to the budget? I mean, the renter's credit, the income credit, and,
100 million. About 100.
no, the total existing, current, and additional dollars.
Representative Rombach, I believe staff can provide that information after committee.
All right, thank you. That's fine.
We do have two testifiers on the agenda. Mr. Paul Egger from Minnesota Realtors. Please identify yourself before the committee, and please keep your comments brief. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Paul Egger. I'm Vice President of Governmental Affairs for the Minnesota Realtors. I'm here in support of the Homestead Credit Refund Program and the bill that Chair Loeffler has brought forward, 2348, which increases the maximum refund for homeowners. You took testimony, this committee heard testimony earlier this session about the program generally, so I'll keep my comments very brief. But this program has had bipartisan support over the years and contributes to improving housing affordability. According to the Minnesota Department of Revenue's 2019 Minnesota Tax Incidence Study, quote, the property tax refunds offset 11.4% of the residential property tax burden, which is actually down from 12.8% in 2016. So as you can see, this program is of assistance to homeowners throughout Minnesota. And with that, and in the interest of time, Madam Chair, I will rest at that point, but thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the testifier? Staff, Kathy, do you have an answer to a question Representative Rombach proposed earlier?
Yes, Madam Chair and members. For fiscal 2020, the Homestead Credit State Refund, the base for that program is $515.8 million. For the renter's property tax refund, the base amount is $228.3 million for fiscal 20. And the targeting property tax refund is $5.1 million.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. And we would double that, right? That's an annual amount?
That's an annual amount, Madam Chair and Representative Runbeck. Remember that these programs are based on income, and income amounts tend to grow, and so it's not a simple doubling. So for example, for 2020, The Homestead Credit State Refund grows a little bit. It's $541.7 million for a total for the biennium of $1 billion. For the property renters property tax refund, it grows to $234.2 million for a biennial total of $462.5 million. And then the targeting refund roughly doubles to just over $10 million.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to testify for or against this bill? All right. Please identify yourself before the committee, and please keep your comments brief.
My name is Mary O'Connor. I'm from Brooklyn Center. Madam Chair and members, taxes should be fair and simple. Homeowners already get a homestead exclusion. Mine has been over $20,000 every year. We shouldn't get that homestead exclusion. Nor should homeowners or renters get a property tax refund. You base property taxes on the value of the home or business property. That's good. Less expensive homes or business property pay less property taxes than more expensive ones. But classification rates should be the same for everyone. Homeowners shouldn't have smaller classification rates than businesses. Don't give credits, refunds, or tax expenditures. Make taxes fair and simple. And I have a handout.
Can you also state your name for the record, too?
Mary O'Connor from Brooklyn Center.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any further questions or testifiers from the audience? Chair Loeffler, do you have any closing remarks?
I thought I was getting a signal. No, I appreciate the committee's consideration. I think that these programs do help people afford their housing, and the dollars that we contribute here circulate within their community and contribute to economic vitality, not only for the people benefited, but for their communities as well.
Right. With that, Chair Loeffler renews her motion that House File 2348 be laid over for possible inclusion in the division report, and the House File is laid over as amended.
Thank you.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Chair Loeffler.
I'm anticipating momentarily being called to another committee. How would you like to continue chairing the meeting?
That is great.
I think so too.
All right. Members, just note that if we do run long today, Mr. Jensen also reserved a room for in the evening after session if we need to continue the agenda into the night. The next bill we have before us is House File 1323. Representative Marquart, would you like to move your bill? Oh. Demuth, all right. All right. Representative Torkelson, would you like to move the bill?
I would move that we entertain House File 1323, Madam Chair, for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill, or in the division reports.
All right. We have House File, what's the number again? 1323 before us, and I see there's an author's amendment. Who would like to move the amendment? Representative Torkelson, would you like to move the amendment?
I will move the A1 amendment, Madam Chair.
Does everyone have the amendment? Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. To the bill, Representative Demuth.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Thank you for hearing House File 1323 today. This bill seeks to modify the definition of income for the property tax refund by excluding veterans' benefits from the definition of household income. Today, with your permission, Madam Chair, I have two testifiers with me that I would like to turn it over to them at this time. They are two esteemed veterans and a senator.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the committee, and please keep your testimony no more than 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jerry Kaiser. I'm the chairman of the United Veterans Legislative Council. That's 30 veteran organizations that support the program I'm going to talk about. I am a Vietnam combat veteran. I came back from Vietnam 50 years ago wounded. And over the years, I am now get compensation from the federal government, the Veterans Affairs. And what I like about this bill is that compensation that I get from the federal is not included on my adjusted gross income. And we take a very dim view on any other program that adds in our disability payments for any kind of tax or something else. That really irritates us as organizations, that you would think about adding an additional income process for you. And I suggest that you follow the process that these two representatives and Senator are coming forth to exempt any kind of disability payment you get from the VA out of any process of figuring out how much we would get back, especially for the young soldiers and sailors and Marines and Coast Guards that are coming back and are struggling with their rentals and things like that. This is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is, Jeff Howe. I'm a senator, and I'm carrying the Senate author on the bill. The way this bill came about is that I had a constituent. One of our constituents contacted me, and the constituent would have qualified for a property tax refund if it were not for the inclusion of his veterans' disability compensation. So because Minnesota decides to add in the veterans' disability compensation back into income, he did not qualify for a property tax refund. Now, we have been working with trying to narrow the scope of this thing down to get a reasonable fiscal note, and we're going to continue to work on it. First of all, when they did the first fiscal note, it came back at $2.1 million because they included veterans' pensions. That was not the intent of the law, the bill. So then when they went back and they looked at all of the veterans' benefits that are out there, it went from 2.1 to $6.2 million because a wide number of people take in a wide number of benefits. So now we're trying to narrow that down to just veterans' disability compensation, to the monthly check they get every month, so more of these low-income veterans can qualify for a property tax refund. And that's the crux of the bill, and we're going to continue to work with the Department of Revenue to try and get the fiscal note down to a point where it's reasonable.
Any questions to the bill? Representative Chakowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to just, Jerry, your last name again?
Kaiser.
Mr. Kaiser and Senator Howe, thank you both for your service. Thank you.
Do we have any audience testifiers? All right. Any closing remark, Representative Demuth?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a reminder, our veterans have served us well. This is disability compensation. That's payment for compensation for something that has happened to them. It's not income. Thank you again for hearing the bill, and I hope to get your approval on it.
Thank you. With that, Representative Demuth renews, Representative Chakowski renews her motion that House File 1323 be laid over possible inclusion in the division report and the House File laid over as amended. All right. The next bill we have before us is 1467. Would someone like to move the bill to get it before the committee?
So moved.
Representative McDonough moves the bill. We have the bill for us. Representative Davids.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative McDonald, for moving House File 1467. It's a bill that excludes non-taxable scholarships from the definition of household income for the purpose of homestead credit refund and renter's credits. It would have the effect of increasing refund amounts for individuals with non-taxable scholarships and making some individuals with non-taxable scholarships newly eligible for refunds. And if you look at the bill on page 2, we're simply striking 2.18 and basically moving that over to page 3 on 3.16 and 3.17. There are people that are being denied refunds because a scholarship puts them over the limit, so this would take care of that.
Right. Do we have any questions to the author? Do we have any audience? Representative Herr?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, and my apologies if it's probably in here, maybe I'm just missing it, but is there a limit on like the size of the scholarship? I'm just wondering, like, for somebody who gets a Bush Fellow, it looks like a large sum of funds, but would they be included in this, or is that excluded?
Representative Davids?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe there's no limit on the scholarship. Maybe Mr. Williams could verify that.
Mr. Chair, or Madam Chair and Representative Burr, I believe that it's just any non-taxable scholarship or fellowship grants are included in the definition of household income, so I don't think there's a limit.
Do we have audience testifiers to testify for or against this bill? All right. Any closing remarks, Representative Davids?
Fine piece of legislation. I appreciate the committee's support. Fine.
All right.
Yes, it is.
Representative McDonald renews his motion that House File 1467 be laid over for possible inclusion in the division report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative McDonald, and committee members.
All right. That's great. We are catching up on time. The next bill we have before us is House File 1391. Representative Marquart, would you like to move the bill before the committee?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to move House File 1391 for possible inclusion into the division report.
We have the bill before us. To the bill, Representative Marquart.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. This bill moves the current law 40% agricultural school building bond ag credit from 40% to a complete elimination or up to 100% of the credit, which would eliminate property taxes on school building bonds portion on ag land classification 2A, 2B, and 2C. Right now, the ag economy is struggling more than any other area of our economy. In fact, for the last 5 years in a row, there's been declining farm incomes. And while as a state, we cannot control the weather, we cannot control commodity prices, but what we can control are some of those costs like property taxes, especially when ag land is being taxed in a very unfair, untenable position. And, years ago, turn of the century, 40% of the population lived actually on farms. Now it's about 2%. And yet in our rural districts, as a proportion of the tax base, even though only about 2% of the folks in our rural districts, school districts, live on farms, they comprise about 34% on the average of the tax base. And in a lot of school districts, like the one I live in, Dilworth, Glen Felton, that's like 60%. Barnesville, 70%. You can go to like Hewlin, Hitterdal, Campbell, Tinta gets up near 80, 90% of the tab. It's very unfair. And so what this would do is increase that, try to create a better system. So whereas our demographics have changed over the years, our school equalization system has not. And I worked last year with Representative Drazkowski on a different type of an approach that actually looked at changing tax bases. And that ultimately could still be a part of something like this, but this is not that proposal this year. But I do want to thank Representative Drazkowski for all the work that we've done trying to create some fairness into this system. So, part of the thing is that in the last 3 years, the success rate in metro school bond issues is about 75 to 80%. In rural Minnesota in the last 3 years, the success rate's about 45%. So this becomes not only a agricultural property tax issue, but it's also a school equity issue, because no matter where you live as a student, you should be able to have the same opportunities for the same top-notch facilities. So I do have a few testifiers here. And Madam Chair, I know you've had a 2-minute ruling, but I do think there should be an amendment to that. I've got two testifiers who will have traveled over 500 miles. They should be allotted at least 1 minute per every 100 miles traveled. But the first testifier is Lindsay Leach, who serves on the Dilworth Glendon Felton School Board, is also a farmer, but most important, a former student of mine, and then also Neil Rogstead from Norman County. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Leach, if I could, Madam Chair.
Yes. Please proceed.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and committee members, Neil and I greatly appreciate this opportunity to testify before you today. I hope we can be helpful in this discussion. My name is Lindsay Leach. I farm with my husband Chad, his parents, and with the help of one full-time employee. I also work off the farm as a respiratory therapist at the VA Medical Center in Fargo. We have 3 children in school. We are a 3rd generation to farm on our land. Our hope is that our children would have the chance to farm there someday if they so choose. You can help make that possible. I am a member of the Dilworth, Glen, and Felton School Board, so I fully understand the need to fund schools. I understand the change that was made to the ag property taxes portion that results from school building bonds. As a farmer, I applaud this first step to fairness. There's a long way to go. How should schools be funded? That's a great question. What does fair mean in taxation? These are difficult questions made especially hard by the long history of doing it on the back of ag land. Change is difficult and can be decisive. In the Homestead Act, land was set aside to fund education way back to the land-grant universities. I think this is where the idea began, that land should fund education. Back then, 90% or more of the population were farmers. Any tax that is spread across 90% of the population has a good chance of being equitable. However, things have drastically changed. In my district, DGF, with over 4,200 voters, there are 155 farmers, including myself, that operate 72 farms. If the last building bond issue put forth would have passed, those farmers would have been saddled with over 60% of the bill. Yes, 60% of the bill, 3.7% of the residents carrying 60% of the load. In some districts, ag land carries virtually all of the load. The 40% change began to recognize that ag land produces no need to stop a school bus. School buses stop at homes because that is where the children get on. It is time to take the next step. All taxes, school taxes, should be removed from ag property. Today in the U.S., where less than 1% of the people are full-time active farmers, it is time to end this outdated model. Let's not let 40% get stuck in people's heads. A real-life example from the DGF school district. It only reduces the total tax bill on ag land by 5.8%. Directionally positive and an important step, but not 40%. Let me spend one moment on the social services portion of Clay County's property tax. It is significantly more on most ag land than the school tax. Yes, just the social services portion is larger than the school tax, and the same theory applies. Bare dirt needs no social services. Clay County is an extreme example, as it contains Moorhead with a high percentage of social service needs. Let me suggest, if this legislative body mandates social services to be provided by the counties, then they should fund those mandates. Doing otherwise is pushing the load onto ag land. Thank you so much for your time and efforts. Neil has some specific examples to share.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Neil Rockstead. I'm a farmer along with my wife Elizabeth from Ada, Minnesota. We have 2 daughters that I hope someday might take over the farm or have the ability to farm if they want. We are the 4th generation on that farm, and additionally, I hire a full-time hired man and several part-time people as the season asks for. Lindsay did a great job of explaining the reason that change is so badly needed and some of the background of the inequities in the system. I would like to give you some real-life examples from our tax situation. We are not large farmers. A local bank in Moorhead, the Bell Bank, says that the minimum size for a viable single-operator farm they recommend that isn't growing vegetables or some other work-intense workload crop is 1,500 acres. The Leaches raise 3,888 acres owned and rented land. That's split between 2 families, so just barely above minimum. I farmed 2,963 acres. Up until recently, that was with my mom and dad, so a little above minimum, but again, not big. In the end, ag property tax is paid by the production from that land. Through rent or directly, the farmer pays the tax. For the sake of illustration, let's assume that there is a non-farming neighbor just down the road from my wife and I, living in a house that is identical to ours. Let's further assume that that couple works in town and has the same income as we do, therefore pays the same state and federal income tax. Let's assume that they have the same net worth, with theirs being an invested pension, stocks, bonds, some antique art. Yet, same income, same house, same net worth, yet at the end of any one given year, I will have paid $66,199 more in taxes than my neighbor, just because my investments are in dirt. Most farmers' only retirement account is the dirt, and it is the only investment that Minnesota taxes each year without regard of ability to pay or income generated. As we head into yet another projected year of low commodity prices, this creates an interesting scenario where many farmers will have to borrow against the equity in their retirement accounts, their land, to pay taxes on their retirement accounts, that being their land. Does it seem like a fair tax plan that is so disassociated from income generated and ability to pay? In Moorhead, there are several family-owned businesses, so let's compare family businesses to family farm businesses. These family businesses also pay tax. A Dairy Queen on the best corner of town pays $4,548. It supports a couple and many part-time summer helpers. Kind of sounds like the employment on a farm. An auto shop owned and operated by a great couple and their son when he's not off at college, in addition to full-time workers. Sounds much again like the staffing of a farm. $4,606 in tax, or about 156 acres of farm dirt. Let's go big. The biggest tax bill that I could find in Dilworth was the Super Walmart, $169,124. How many people make a living there, I can only guess. If I had all my acres in Clay County versus Norman County, which is slightly less on the property tax, the Leaches and I would pay more in taxes in 1 year than the Dairy Queen, Dugan's Auto, and Super Walmart combined. Is there any way to stretch your imagination to make that fair? I would also like to express the Minnesota Farm Bureau's support for this legislation. I have the opportunity to serve on my county board. This issue not only impacts me, but also farmers and ranchers across the state of Minnesota. To summarize, it is time to get school taxes off of ag land. Next, it is time to get social services costs off of ag land. The realities have changed since the days of the Homestead Act. Again, Lindsay and I appreciate this opportunity. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have now or later.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Representative Hertaus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As much a comment as a question, thank you, Chair Marquart, for authoring this bill. And you're correct, this has been a bipartisan effort over the last many years to restore some sensibilities to our very complicated property tax system. Many may recall that during the great housing recession, there was a race to the bottom with regard to housing values, and nobody could buy a house. And that, unfortunately, shifted the values into ag land at the time that was maintaining its value because it happened to coincide with good commodity prices and higher farmland prices. We're still suffering the latent effects of that very same issue where the farm values are disproportionate to the home values, and it's starting to recover in the home values. I'd like to point out that, as one of your testifiers did, oftentimes you'll own farmland or business property outside of the area that you're even allowed to vote in. And so you don't even get to vote no. Not that one vote would make a difference perhaps, but it's just the idea that you don't even get to represent yourself with regard to some of these issues. And in the extreme circumstances like you've mentioned in your county, where 1 or 2% are paying such a horrendous amount of the school taxes, there was a time when we were young, very young, when post-World War II, for example, half the population of the United States lived on farms. And the efficiencies demand that this population has continued to go down and down and down to the point where we need our farmers. We need them to stay profitable. We need them to stay in business. They're feeding the nation and other parts of the world, and that farm population nationally is down to 1%, little better than 1%. So this falls disproportionately, just like the business classes, where 12% on average statewide, business class owns about 12% of the tax capacity, and yet it's paying more than 30% of all the property taxes as well. So we have a systemic problem with the property tax. We've been talking about it, working together for a number of years, trying to figure out a way. But thank you for bringing this bill. Thank you for the hard work you folks do. And it just isn't right that you should have to be borrowing against your equity just to stay alive, hoping for a better year. Thank you.
Representative McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for the testifiers. Your take on the estate tax, the death tax, since you own a farm and the soil. What's your take on that? Do you think Minnesota should repeal its death tax, estate tax?
Yes. Full repeal.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right. Representative Jankowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Marquart, Chair Marquart, for bringing this forward, and it's been a pleasure working with you on this issue for the last, 5 years now. And for your effort to push this forward, I think is really good from your position as Chair of the Property Tax Committee. So I'm so pleased to see that and supportive of this bill. But I have a real important question, and that's for Ms. Leach. Your state representative has been very successful here. He's now Chair of the Tax Committee. And he largely left teaching, so I'm wondering, was he any good as a teacher?
Ms. Lee?
Yeah, he was fantastic. The passion that Mr. Marquart shows you all, that's what he showed us as students. And everybody loves his 12th grade class. I won our mock presidential campaign.
Yes,
I think I still have my poster. So yeah, very, very great teacher. Thank you for having us down here, Paul, and for Madam Chairman and the committee members.
Thank you all, and thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to testify on House File 1391? Right, any closing remarks? Representative Marquardt?
Well, just thank you again, and this has always been a bipartisan issue, and so hopefully we can move this forward. So thank you, and thanks for the testimony.
All right, with that, Representative Marquardt renews their motions that House File 1391 be laid over for possible inclusion, and the House File is laid over. All right, next we have before us is House File 1430. Would someone like to move the bill to get it before the committee? Representative Petersburgs? We have the bill before us. To the bill, Representative Torkelson.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be back in the property tax division. I was once the Republican lead in this group some years ago, and it's nice to be back. As everyone knows, buffers and the issues around them have been somewhat controversial for some time, and property tax relief for those landowners that are required to put buffers in is what this bill is all about. It's similar in some ways to what the governor has built into his budget, but it is different in some very specific and important ways. First, I'll just try to explain the concept overall. The idea is that if you are a landowner who has a required buffer on your property, as long as you're in compliance with the buffer law, and as long as the county reduces the property tax due on that buffer property to zero, the county then determines how much property tax they would have collected had that property been taxed, and the state then turns around and reimburses the county for that amount of money. Landowners that have required buffers are happy because they're no longer paying property tax on it. Other landowners in the neighborhood are happy because we're not just pushing that property tax burden onto other property in the taxing district. Counties are happy because they're held harmless as far as revenue goes. The general fund, of course, has to come up with the dollars. The difference, major difference between this and what the governor has in his budget is that this is based on actual property taxes due or that would have been due on those properties rather than a arbitrary flat $50 an acre across the board. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to stand for questions, although we do have some testifiers that would like to speak to the bill.
Yeah, we'll go ahead with the testifiers first, and then we'll leave it open up for questions. Is Brian Tauman here to testify before the committee? Please identify yourself.
Good afternoon. Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Brian Thalman. I serve as president of the Minnesota Corn Growers Association. Minnesota Corn Growers has over 6,500 members and represents all of Minnesota's 24,000 corn farmers through our research and education efforts. One of the key legislative priorities of the Minnesota Corn Growers Association and tens of thousands of farmers throughout Minnesota is the fundamental principle that farmers should be compensated when government forces a change in their land that imposes financial implications, similar to how government treats businesses and homeowners. As such, I'm here today to voice strong support for House File 1430, the Agricultural Riparian Buffer Credit. Among the many reasons why House File 1430 needs to be enacted into law this year, allow me to highlight three. Number one, it's about basic fairness. Farmers and average Minnesotans understand the long-held principle that if government takes a person's property, there needs to be fair compensation for the loss. The buffer legislation passed in 2015 not only failed to provide any compensation to farmers for the cost of creating buffers, but farmers in many counties continue to be taxed each year on buffer acres at valuations that assume those acres are still producing crops and revenue. Farmers are frustrated with this gross inequity, and House File 1430 reduces the tax burden on these acres that are no longer generating any income. House File 1430 would make this uniform across the state. Reason number two, farmers are getting into compliance. The Board of Water and Soil Resources has stated they believe 98% of affected farms are now either in compliance or will be soon. Farmers are doing their part during a time of significant economic stress in farm country. It's time for the state to do its part by closing the gap on property taxes and buffer acres that no longer produce any income. And reason number three, broad support for a buffer property tax credit. This legislation enjoys bipartisan legislative support, and Governor Walz has also included the buffer property tax credit in his proposed budget. In addition, we know from our public opinion polling that 85% of Minnesotans support compensating farmers for the cost of installing buffers or reducing the property taxes on buffer acres. In fact, 36% of Minnesotans strongly support providing compensation, and this support cuts across partisan and geographic lines. People understand basic fairness, which is why this issue is so proudly supported and so important to farmers. In conclusion, Minnesota farmers are watching this issue closely, and we are counting on the legislature to come through this year and address some of the unfinished business related to buffers. On behalf of the Minnesota corn growers, we thank you for your appreciation and consideration.
Thank you for being here. Next we have is Matt Hilgard. Please identify yourself before the committee.
Madam Chair, members, thank you very much. My name is Matt Hilgart, and I work for the Association of Minnesota Counties. AMC represents all of Minnesota's 87 counties. I want to thank Chair Torkelson for his work on this proposal. AMC has a general platform proposal that supports reimbursements for landowners that were required to put land into buffers under 103F.48. We understand this year there are several proposals going around regarding this, and just want to make sure that whatever folks are working on, that we can actually administer this program and that it's not too administratively complex or burdensome for local governments in terms of monitoring and perhaps program updates. So in this effort, we've created a small group of county assessors and county auditors to be kind of a technical expertise group to bounce ideas off of the authors, and we understand the administration is also working on this so that we can get to a proposal that makes administrative sense. So I again thank you, Representative Torkelson and Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you. And the next we have is Joanna Bayers.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Joanna Bayers, and I'm the Legislative Director for the Minnesota Department of Revenue. We'd like to thank you, Representative Torkelson, for bringing this forward and for the work you've done on this legislation. Your proposal has similarities with the buffer credit outlined in Governor Walz's tax bill. It shares the common goal of providing a credit to landowners who put their land into buffers. There are a few differences in the approach. One, the governor's bill outlines a one-time application process for landowners to receive the credit. We believe this will clarify or help offer clarity for all involved governments when administering the credit. Additionally, this bill expands the amount of land eligible to include 2A and 2B parcels. And Governor Walz's proposal only offers the credit to Class 2A parcels. Governor Walz laid out a flat credit of $50 per acre. This bill, however, allows for a net capacity or net tax capacity based credit. Governor Walz is committed to helping local governments administer this credit in the most efficient way. We have reached out to the counties and our county officers on these proposals and look forward to working with them and Representative Torkelson as this proposal moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to testify in House File 1430? All right. Any questions to the testifiers? Representative McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question actually for staff, just in regarding the Minnesota Department of Revenue, and maybe even Ms. Bears can mention this, but the last bullet point saying lowering property taxes for property owners receiving the credit would reduce reductions in income tax returns, therefore increasing state collections by $320,000. So I think I understand that, but not quite yet. I need a little bit of clarification, to be honest.
Michelle?
Madam Chair and members, Representative McDonald is looking at the revenue estimate. And basically, this is not uncommon with a number of credits that we have an income tax interaction. And so when you have, when you pay higher taxes, you have more of a propensity to have that interact with what you pay for your income. And so in this case, a credit will lower the amount of taxes that we would, a taxpayer would pay, and therefore it would impact their income. And that's why you see the interaction.
Representative McDonald?
Madam Chair, I believe I followed that a little bit clearer. Thank you. And then just one comment to Representative Torkelson. Although it doesn't really, the cost isn't on the counties, but it does count the cost of counties in inspecting. Isn't that true? Just they have to inspect how many farmers are in compliance with the buffer law. A nominal fee, but it does cost them somewhat in that. Would that be a correct statement?
Representative Torkelson?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative McDonald. Yes, there'll be some expenses in gathering this information. I believe, and I need to verify this, that compliance is part of an annual report from SWCDs to the county board, so they know which landowners are in compliance. But the estimation of the taxes that would have been collected and getting those numbers together will require somebody to do some work that's going to cost most likely the county some money. But I would just stress that details of the bill are still a bit of a work in progress. As you heard from other testifiers, we're still taking in information and trying to come up with a workable solution that gets the work done accurately, but also with as little trouble as possible.
Great. See no further questions. Any closing remark, Representative Torkelson?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for hearing this bill today. I just remind folks that this issue's been hanging around since last biennium. The past governor was very interested in it. It didn't quite make it across the finish line last time. It was a campaign issue in both parties. It was mentioned during the campaign as something that they wanted to address. So it's truly bipartisan in nature. My proposal has a much smaller cost to it for the estimate that came back from the Department of Revenue, so that would be equal to the chair of taxes as he's putting his bill together. And I believe that that's because it actually reflects the property taxes that would have been due on those properties had they been taxed rather than an arbitrary $50 an acre. With that, Madam Chair, I thank you for hearing the bill.
And with that, Representative Petersburg renews his motion that House File 1430 be laid over for possible inclusion in the division report and that House File is laid over.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Representative Hertas?
I didn't say anything earlier, but I just want to make the point that we have a schedule and agenda with regard to hearing bills, and if the agenda is so filled that individual members cannot speak, I didn't say anything with regard to your not allowing Representative Runbeck, who hadn't had a chance to speak, to say anything. But, our tax committee, with the exception of putting together a division report timely, we really don't have deadlines per se. And I just want to assure you that our membership will do everything we can do to move the agenda along and to get through the bills and the number of meetings that you think are necessary. But early in a session like we just had, I don't think we need to cut off the debate so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hertup. That is duly noted, and that bill seems like needs to be further discussion needed, so we will be hearing that bill later in the week. Thank you. All right, and with that, thank you so much. We are on time for your cooperation, members, and meeting is adjourned.